Limited in Canaan is Mr. Gerald McFarlane and Dania Marcelle. Dania is from Tadco. She's actually the acting CEO of Tadco. And we have Mr. McFarlane, we know no stranger to us, media personality, farmer. Yes, did you know he, of course I know the older folks will know that, but the younger ones, do you know Mr. McFarlane is a farmer? Oh yes, and he's also here as a committee member of Lamb Fest 2024. And we are talking about Tobago Lamb Fest, an event coming up. It's part of the World Food Day initiative. You know, it's no longer just that one day where everything is crammed into one day, but it's spread across a period. So good morning, lady and gentlemen. Welcome to Tobago Updates this morning. Of course, we are on the outside, as we mentioned to our viewers, and we are talking about Tobago Lamb Fest. And before I come to Ms. Marcelle, you're a member of the planning committee, Mr. McFarlane. What was the mindset behind having something like this, and why lamb? You know, in Tobago, everywhere you go, you hear about goat, right? We know chicken, we know the beef, but why a lamb fest?
It's a very interesting question, and that has been the issue, because we grew up, you know, minding animals and so on, and particularly sheep. Tobago people like to rear a lot of sheep, and they have this tradition that they just sell it to the butchers. And at the same time, you know, you have things like goat roti and so on. You never hear about mutton roti or lamb roti and so on. And there was this feeling, and I always try to dispute it, that, you know, Tobago people do like to eat lamb and so on, because we never really take a special effort to market lamb, and with the many different dishes and how to do it and so on. And we felt, in order to cut out this lamb, just butchers buy the sheep at a next to nothing price, take it to Trinidad.
Right.
We sell this primary product.
Yes.
All over the years, it's from copra, it's cocoa, it's all different things. We sell the primary product and you just go to Trinidad and somebody else make the money. So I personally and one or two other people, I think Ricardo Alfred, who's the now chairman of Tadco, and people like Marvin, Waldrop and Kevlon and Quincy Dillon, and these people, we got together and we said we have to put a stop into this.
Right.
So we form an organization and we form a planning team, and we decided that we have to stop this, and then we felt that we should develop this Lamb Festival. We had a long discussion on the name and what it would look like, and we had people like Dr. Paul Crooks, who was very instrumental in putting the things together as a proposal. You know, and we really appreciate his effort. And that came about, especially with the efforts of Tadco. We took it to the secretary as a preliminary idea and so on. She fell in love with it and she gave us her blessings. And with that, we started planning. And last year was the first time. It was very successful, and to some extent a little embarrassing because the food sell out so fast.
All right. So I hope that you all are prepared for this round of it. Yes?
So we prepared for it and so on, and we have Tadco again involved, and we're always happy for their support and contribution. Tadco is really the executing agency for the Lamb Festival.
Right, and now it's a good time to bring in Miss Marcelle, because the question is how Miss Marcelle-Ferguson.
Yes.
Right, thank you for that correction. Tell us how Tadco is involved in Lamb Festival 2024.
Okay, so as Mr. McFarlane said, Tadco is the executing agency. So therefore, we are involved in all the procurement of the lamb. We interact with all the farmers and the stakeholders to be able to bring this event to fruition. And you know that Tadco is, you know, in support of farmers, whether it's lamb farmers, poultry farmers, farmers with crops. So Tadco is really that agency that interacts with the farmers, has the relationship, and tries to maintain that relationship with the farmers. So we are in full support of Lamb Fest 2024, and we are hoping that we utilize all the thousands of pounds of pork, lamb that we have for the festival.
And again, you know, with the slip of the tongue, we see the importance of marketing the lamb, because it's not usually on our plates. And strange enough, you would say that so many farmers choose sheep as their animal of rearing and farming, yet it goes to Trinidad, because when you are in Trinidad, I mean, you go to all those barbecue huts, that's the first thing people would usually ask for. You know, the lamb, the chicken and the other meats are there, but a lot of people go for that, you know, and even when you see the price in the supermarket, markets when you want to purchase it and what you're getting. It's amazing that it hasn't really developed in terms of that part of the process here in Tobago. So congratulations to you and your team, both for Tadco and for your team, Mr. McFarlane. And I want to go back to Mrs. Marcelle-Ferguson, again, looking at Tadco providing that support. What's the hope when you support initiatives like this?
Well, the hope is always that Tobagonians change their mindset and support all things meat and all things local in Tobago.
Yes.
And we know that anything that has the Tobago stamp on it, it says quality, it says, it says wholesomeness, it's just everything, right? So we are hoping that persons really, set a preference for lamb, right? Because around Christmas time, there's the popularity of the chicken, the pork, and so on. And, we want to make this something that is year-round.
Right.
Yes, so even after the event, Tadco will have lamb available, right, for sale. And that we'll be promoting that aspect. We want to get it on the plates of all Tobagonians.
Excellent. And Mr. McFarlane, Tobago Lamb Fest. Taste the difference. That's your slogan line, your catch line at the end of it. Tell us, in terms of mobilizing persons, you have your organizing committee. You said, it was so successful last year. What's the hope, and Mrs. Ferguson would have shared, Tadco's hope of providing that support and changing that mindset. But even coming from you and a farmer, tell us a little about, being a farmer and having sheep as your choice of animal.
Yeah, well, I grew up with animals, and fishing and so on, and seeing all my grandparents, and they're doing a lot of agriculture around and so on. And we had a space, I had a space by me in terms of the land space.
Right.
And some other farmers, encouraged me to get into this thing in a big way. I had 1 or 2 sheep, and then a cousin of mine died and had some sheep, and I just had to take it over.
Right.
And we just expand and increase the breeding with high quality breeding stock, and that really helped in expanding the thing. Today, I have about 70-something animals, and that is pretty good for us.
Right. We
have to cater for things like feeding and that sort of thing. So one of the programs, and especially in collaboration with Tadco is really the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company,
yes.
and they're really working true to their theme and their strategic plan. And we consult with them on a lot of things, particularly Ricardo Alfred, who is always very receptive and always could give you some kind of advice.
Yes.
And that's the kind of personal relationship
I have. And he's
I
quite passionate about it.
Yeah, very passionate.
Yes.
And you could always get an advice or contact from Ricardo.
Right.
So we build on that, I personally and the team. And we had to develop Paul Crooks, a very structured and organized person.
Yes.
We develop a plan how we're going to increase the breed and improve the stock and look at the particular breeds to know which one is more meatier. All that goes into the preparation.
The science of it.
The science and the agricultural background. And this also is kind of ties in to the division focus on sustainable development and that sort of thing. So you're really hitting an open door, and the farmers were getting very excited because they were selling their animals at a very low price, getting very little return, and their main primary product. And we had to change that. We had to look at feed, the cost of feed. We're looking at recently there was a program started by Keith George where we're looking at forage, looking at the local vegetables and plants and things that we have and can convert that to forage, especially before the dry season kicks in, because we had a real bad dry season last year, and we had to depend a lot on feed. So we have to look at alternative forms of forage, how we're using them, things like Gloria cedar, trichontara, and all these other grass, elephant grass, and some of these other grasses. So we have programs now, and Tadco facilitate this kind of program, where we bring farmers together, look at how you could cut up the feed, how you could clean it and have it kept in a particular way. And it could last for weeks and months, depending on what you do with it, how you cut it up and how you put salted water through it. And,
So it's really about educating your farmers.
Educating and changing a mindset, and adding value to what you have.
Right. And while we
in a very cost-effective way.
Right. And while we started the farmers again, I know both of you would have shared one of the goals of having Tobago Lamb Festival is for the end user, the persons who are cooking and eating, to have them remember that's always an option. So tell us more about Tobago Lamb Festival, when it is, where it is, how members of the public, how our viewers can be a part of this festival.
The 24th, I think, the 24th of November. And we're really aiming to show people. We have a catering competition. We bring in some caterers, and they will have access or purchase a certain meat at a certain price. And I think from today, the procurement has been completed. So the lambs will be slaughtered. And then the caterers, I think we're aiming to have, Ferguson is what, 5,600 live animal weight.
Okay.
And from that, you'll get something like 2,500 meat, actual lamb.
Okay.
You know? Is going to prepare certain dishes so that people will become more familiar with the different types of dishes, and we have a caterers competition.
Oh, excellent.
You know, so all of that will stimulate more interest, and people will understand and see for themselves how the different dishes are made, what added ingredient or what special ingredient is used for lamb. As somebody was telling me, rosemary plant is very critical for lamb.
Mostly, yes. You have to know how to season the lamb. The heat is a bit different.
And sometimes some people say you boil it a little first before you season it, and there's some little rank thing or something they say with the lamb, but I don't really see that much. But you know, but there are different ways of doing it and getting the people to understand that it's more valuable than goat.
Right.
You see goat on the market, it's for a particular price. When it's lamb, is a much higher price, you know, and that is why people must know and value the stock that they have, you know, the lamb or the sheep, you know. And we decided criteria for the lamb festival in terms of what size of animal. And last year in particular, we had to test and hold and feel and inspect every single animal before it was qualified for, in terms of weight, any disease, check the eyes for whether it's pale or nice red, you know, check the teeth for the first incisors, whether they're much longer than the other teeth and the lower jaw in particular, you know, and determine the age of the animal, not more than 1 year old or maybe a little more than a year old, to maintain a quality. When we say lamb, we're talking about an animal maybe 1 year old, you know. So all these little criteria and standards were set, and Paul Crooks really assists us greatly in this regard, and we always want to be appreciative for what he has done, and the standard is set for this lamb festival in terms of preparation, planning, and even in the execution.
And even with you sharing all the details in terms of the criteria, again, it's one of the reasons I think it's better to always support local, because you have access to information, you have a sort of guarantee of what's going on as opposed to buying like imported meat. I always say, for me as a person, you know, imported meat is kind of hard for me to reconcile, because I'm like, when was that killed? How long it stay in storage A to get to point B and then come here, you know? It's like, no, you know, we have farmers, let's support them. We have it. It's not like we don't have it.
And that is one of the areas, and TATCO is really playing a special effort in that, in improving the standard and the quality of meat, how it is stored, and that type of thing. In spite of little breakdowns they may have from time to time,
and that's,
the focus is really,
yes.
And they inherit a 40-year-old plant and that sort of thing.
Yes.
But really, the effort that they're making to really ensure that the quality of meat and the quality of farming products is of a certain standard, you know, and they must be commended for that.
Right, and let me go back to Mrs. Ferguson. Tell us where the Lamb Festival is taking place, and again, viewers who want to be a part of it, can they just come purchase, or is there an entry to come in? You know, tell us more about the event.
Okay, well, the Lamb Fest is being hosted at the Shop Park Food Hub, and the event starts at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We will have a lot of activities, as Mr. McFarlane has mentioned. We have the chef competition, we have live demonstration, there is also a kids corner with bouncy castle and so forth.
Nice.
There are also games, so you will be entertained. There will be also entertainment during the event, so you will be most entertained. So you're not just only coming to eat lamb, but you're coming to have a holistic experience throughout the day.
So it's not like, let me just pick up my lunch and go, but I can come bring the family, spend some time, relax a bit and socialize.
Yes, and you know, the food hub is a place where people meet to eat and you know, commune with each other, right? So we have our picnic benches and so forth. So you don't have to just come pick up and go. You come, you sit, you eat, you take in the festivities, and you know, and we are aiming for also, like, you know, that family-oriented space where persons could come in and, you know, come with their families, mommy, daddy, granny, and, you know, just have a good time on the day.
Right. And for those of you who may say, well, I'm at church, after church, come and have your lunch down at the food hub, all right? Experience something different. You know, for those of you who, and you mentioned it, and I always said that's how I learned that in Tobago, because I would ask for the meat and I'll say lamb, and I would hear somebody say cooked mutton, and I'm like, what's that, you know? And so it's something, and I heard Mr. McFarlane when he was speaking, I don't even know if he realized that's what he sasaid, right? He talked about cooking mutton. So for the younger ones in particular who love the kitchen, you know, come and explore. We have so many students who are THTI, and yes, you would learn there, but come and learn from other persons as well, and you might pick up something your lecturer didn't show you or tell you. So be a part. It is Sunday the 24th of November, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Shore Park Food Hub, and it is a family affair. Many of you also cry out, there's nothing for us to do as a family. Don't miss Sunday, November 24th. Bring out the family, learn something new. Or many of us just love our bellies. Come and eat and have a good time, right? Even though you might be there to learn something, come and eat. Enjoy the food, and then it can be maybe an option for your Christmas plate. Put it on the menu and try something different. Mrs. Ferguson, before, as we look to wrap up, there are still persons who don't understand the importance of having TADCO around, and you heard Mr. McFarlane allude to it and talk about the support. But just for our viewers, the benefit of some who still don't understand, TADCO is just not a place to go and buy something from a freezer. You know, tell us a little more about the expertise that TADCO brings to the agricultural community.
Well, to the agricultural community, other than, you know, fostering that relationship with farmers, providing that expertise, because we have the field officers who normally go out and visit farmers at intervals. We also support the farmers by having the largest cold storage in Tobago. And usually we would blast freeze the meat and so forth, put it in storage so that persons could probably take their meat. There are persons who take, like, you know, the poultry farmers who take the meat and they sell it to their customers, they package and so on and so forth. We also have the feed depot, and we have a special 5% discount for all farmers who present their farmer's ID. And at this time we are building that database, so you don't have to present the ID every single time that you come. So as soon as we know that we pull you up on our system, we know that you're a farmer, you get the 5% discount. We are also working with a lot of poultry farmers at this time, because, you know, in the past we would have done the poultry farming exercise. So we are still supporting those farmers. We are still taking their chickens, right? And we are soon enough going to regain our processing aspect, where we will be supporting farmers with root crops and so forth, and we'll be providing those value-added products to be put on the market, right? So no longer would you be able, you will have to peel your cassava on your own. You would have that packaged, you would have it grind and all these things. So be supporting the agricultural sector and agro-processors, not only farmers, but the agro-processors as well.
Right, and that is excellent. So again, thank you so much for joining us. And for viewers, just to remind you again, the date is Sunday, November 24, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Shore Park Food Hub. The Tobago Lamb Fest. Taste the difference. Don't miss it. Thank you so much for joining us.
And I just want to add, before we go, I just want to commend the Secretary for Agriculture and the Administrator in the division, Ms. Louis, and so on, for supporting the initiative, you know, from the start, and continuing, and always look forward to our presence, not just at the Lamb Festival, but as to see how the livestock sector is progressing, and provide all the necessary support. TADCO as well, and the chairman, and of course Mrs. Ferguson here. You know, we all have a nice relationship, and that's the kind of synergy that the sector and the agricultural sector needs. You know, we have our challenges and our problems, and the interest, as I always say, in these groups and these initiatives, we have to find ways of working together and working around our differences, and then we'll see success.
All right, most definitely. So thank you again, viewers. We go for a quick break, and when we return, we find out some more information about what Standards has to offer.
Let's go, go. It's a brand new